New Zealanders on the Diamond Princess are being strongly encouraged to take an Australian flight out of Tokyo or risk being stopped from boarding a commercial flight. 11 New Zealanders have spent 2 weeks quarantined on the cruise ship because of a coronavirus outbreak. The Australian government says they can piggyback on a flight for its citizens tomorrow, but there's a condition. They must have 2 more weeks quarantine when they get home, and that's frustrating some passengers. Health correspondent Rowan Quinn reports.
It's been a long 2 weeks for the thousands of people aboard the Diamond Princess, confined to their cabins, except for those in inside cabins who get an hour a day on deck. The Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, says she understands some of the New Zealanders are distressed and frustrated, but public safety has to come first.
Unfortunately, there has been such a rate of transmission, despite some incredible efforts from all those involved, that we do need to put public health and their health first.
And she says the government can act to protect that health by barring anyone who's not undergone an additional 2 weeks quarantine in Japan from boarding a plane.
But we need to keep in mind that if they choose to try and fly commercially, that then exposes a range of other people to risk. So the best option is coming back. If they choose to stay, they'll need to wait out another 14 days.
New Zealand passenger Ren Manuel had initially wanted to fly home on his own steam, but now feels he has no choice but to take up the Australian flight. He says if he has to be quarantined, it may as well be close to home. But he questions why New Zealand didn't step in earlier.
If the government really wanted to do something, they could have did it like on day one, you know what I mean? And then we could have served our quarantine, and now it's going to be another 14 days.
The Health Minister, David Clark, who strongly encouraged New Zealanders to take the flight, says the best decisions were made at the time.
Those people who were providing the quarantine on the ship were responding to what was a rapidly evolving situation. So I think only over time did it become apparent quite how widespread the issue was on the boat.
The Australian flight will take the Kiwis as far as Darwin, and it's likely Air New Zealand will then fly them home on a commercial flight. The Director General of Health, Ashley Bloomfield, says precautions will be taken on board in case anyone's in the early stages of the disease.
We're working closely with the Australians, as we did with the Air New Zealand flight that brought folk out of Wuhan. So basic hygiene precautions can really limit the likelihood or the risk of transmission.
He says the number of New Zealanders who have taken up the offer of the flight will be confirmed tonight. They'll be quarantined together in Whangaparaoa. Mr Clark says the government's in contact with 16 New Zealanders on board Holland America's MS Westerdam, who disembarked that ship in Cambodia just hours before an 83-year-old passenger tested positive for coronavirus. Meanwhile, the 157 people who have spent 2 weeks at the naval training base in Whangaparaoa after being evacuated from Wuhan will be free to leave tomorrow. Mō te hōtaka o te ahiahi ko Rowan Quinn DNA.